Live from the local station, this is Weather Authority Weekday.
Hey everyone, I'm Meteorologist Mark Collins on this Weather Authority Alert Day. We made it through what has been the hottest week in Jacksonville's history. Why do I say that? Because we've got some records that are going down. We've been at 100, 101 several days. And today we're going to be back into the upper 90s. In fact, we have been at 98 degrees or higher over the last 7 days in a row. So ouch, it has been a scorcher. But we will see that start to fade away this weekend as the rain comes back into the forecast. Will it rain today? Probably not. Probably not over your place because we're looking at a fairly dry setup here. Blue skies over us right now. That has already pushed the temperatures to what it feels like 100 already here at 10:02 in the morning, feeling like 100 degrees. So you bet more of the same coming your way. So McClenny, Orange Park, all feeling like triple digits, feels like 102 in Palatka. And today we'll spend several hours at 108 degrees or higher. Because of that, we are under a heat advisory. What's new? We've been under heat advisories pretty much all week long. So we've got some extra moisture pooling along that front. It's going to make it feel pretty sticky. That cold front could generate showers and thunderstorms across central Georgia this afternoon. It remains to be seen how much of that will hold together tonight as they drop southward. But I think those of you around Waycross and Brunswick might see some evening storm activity, increasing your odds for rain there a little bit higher than the rest of us. But a lot of red, orange, whatever you want to call it there, depending on the contrast on your monitor. That color there, that represents the heat advisories from South Carolina to Georgia, all the way down into the Florida Bay. That's right. So even if you're doing some bone fishing on the flats there off of Monroe County, you're dealing with the heat. And that would probably generate a lot of water spouts down yonder. High today, 98 degrees, 98 in Orange Park, and even some 90s along the beaches. We could see some 80s, though, showing up for afternoon highs as we head into the extended forecast. So don't tune out just yet. Take a look there. Sunday, Monday, looking at those upper 80s here with a little bit more cloud cover and better rain chances on Sunday. That's the recipe for breaking this heat wave that we've been in. But you have another a hot day, call it the heat wave, extending into Saturday. So your weekend plans will be dealing with more of the same here for Saturday before we see these rain chances increase for Sunday. So like I said, I think Waycross into Brunswick this evening into several hours after dark, after sunset tonight. That's your window for rain. If we get any isolated showers around Green Cove Springs, Palatka, into Duval, it would mainly be during the early to late afternoon hours. This is the forecast model here showing how stable the air is as we head through 5, 6, nothing really generating. So pretty quiet setup here. Not just this model, other models I've looked at really look uneventful for rain today. So just a hot day, the type that wilts the grass away since it is so dry. But notice here on Saturday, we start to see the rain potential increase a little bit, especially where a front stalls out in Georgia. So that's why the rain looks a little bit more robust there across southern Georgia during the afternoon and evening hours. So if you've got plans on Saturday, your afternoon looks hot in the mid-90s here around town, maybe a brief cooling shower during the late afternoon, early evening hours. But as we head towards the sunset, those showers and storms will tend to get pushed back towards the beaches over northeast Florida, whereas they're going to be moving more from the north to the south and swallowing up the Georgia area. So I do think Saturday wetter in Georgia, but you'll see an uptick in rain potential here across northeast Florida on Saturday. Now Sunday, this model stops, but it does look that Sunday we'll see more rain covering much of the area. Now getting back to the heat today, from the coast, yes, warm, but it's definitely those areas from town back towards the west side, which we'll see those numbers in the upper 90s. So big heat extends across southern Georgia. You might actually see some triple digits over interior Georgia And there you see mid-90s around places like Alachua County over to Putnam County. So it's going to be pretty hot in interior North Florida. Now, today we are not going to see records. We're far from that. We'd have to get up to 102 degrees, but at 98 degrees, getting up to 198, not a big difference. It's just pretty hot. But for the month of July, we have set records here. Now, we've had individual days that have been on the hottest ever, but now that we're started August, we can reflect back and look at all of the official totals for both Jacksonville and Gainesville. And when you consider just looking at the daytime highs, Jacksonville is the 4th hottest on record. And that really it goes to show the power of this past week. Because I wrote a story a week ago that had us as the 10th hottest. So we had just gotten into the top 10 rankings. And then what we've experienced here over this past week have set us up to the 4th hottest daytime highs on record for July in Jacksonville. Now, when you basically take the daytime high and the low and average them together to get a more comprehensive look at each daily high, you add those up for the entire month, and that is the hottest July Jacksonville has ever had. Not just Jacksonville, but also Gainesville as well. So it goes down in history as, yes, you think, seems like it's been feeling hotter than normal, and there's the proof right there. So when you look at how many days that were 98 degrees or higher for the whole month, we had 9. So that has put our average about 2.3 degrees hotter than typical, almost an average of 95 degrees. So it was a scorcher, something that we haven't seen here in our area. And there have only been a handful of days, I counted up, it was about 7 to 9 days that were rain-free days. So each day had at least a trace or more of rainfall. And going forward, you can see how the rain chances do spike higher on Sunday. So Sunday is going to be the wetter day. I think all of us sharing in some rain, and we're getting back to more of that weather pattern here through next week. Now, we have been sitting right firm under this ridge of high pressure. And how do I know that? Well, take a look at how moisture is flowing around in the atmosphere. This is what we call water vapor, and it visually represents how the winds are flowing above the ground. And you can see the yellow or the greens and whites across Georgia. Notice how that's moving that way off towards the east. And then around Tampa and South Florida, it's moving the opposite direction towards the Gulf. So you can see how there's this clockwork of anticyclonic flow. That's the high pressure. When you have that twisting gyre over us, the air is sinking and compressing, and it's that classic bicycle pump analogy that you're heating up the atmosphere. In essence, you're putting more weight in a volume of air, and that weight sinks, it compresses, and when you have something heavier, it heats up. Think about more people in a crowded club. It gets hotter than just one person dancing to themselves. It's a kind of chilling sight, right? All right, so back to the big map. Now, we talked about how rain was increasing. There it is. There's that stalled front. That's the thing that's going to be stalled out in Georgia, increasing rain chances. And by Sunday, it drops just a little bit further south, but not just dropping closer to Jacksonville, increasing the rain chances, but weak areas of low pressure will develop along it. Now, no one's talking about any tropical development there, which I'm surprised because everyone hypes the heck out of tropical systems. But I wouldn't be surprised to see some low spin off of North Carolina early next week. And then all of a sudden, all the attention is going to go towards that. Now, it'd probably be a non-tropical low, but sometimes they can develop warm cores. And there you see a weak area low pressure moving away. Now, when I say weak area low pressure, average sea level pressure of 1,013 millibars, this would probably be no lower than that. So in general, relative to high pressure, that would be a lower area of pressure, not like a tropical storm or anything like that. But wave after wave kind of rotates along that stalled frontal boundary. So we might see enhanced rains through early next week. And notice how the Northeast finally cools down with some fronts that move through there. But we stay pretty warm, but not as hot as where we have been. So today will be a scorcher. If you're going out this evening for some baseball, Jumbo Shrimp are playing. It's going to be in the mid-90s, but it'll still feel like 100 degrees at 6 o'clock. And, there's also that football scrimmage. The Jags are going to be offense versus defense, and it will be even hotter there in the Jags Stadium. Water temperature is pretty warm. I'm seeing all the readings basically in the mid 80s. Right there at the mouth, the pilot's bar dock is showing 87 degrees, and the surf has been pretty flat. Longboarders have had like maybe a knee-high wave out there, and notice not much showing up. Now, I do think by Wednesday of next week, we might get more of a distant swell from those areas of low pressure that move off the Carolinas. That could actually send in a 1 to 2 foot ground swell, which might actually be pretty good. But there are no significant areas of development. There is a very broad tropical wave off the Leeward Islands. You can see some clouds there, not a lot of convection with that. The Hurricane Center is not expecting anything to develop over the next 7 days. Now, there are some stronger waves that are expected to move off of Africa. They're still over the desert areas, but if anything develops along that front, we're talking like maybe August 10th. So we've got like 10 days of quiet weather. Focusing back on that area off the Carolinas that I mentioned, yes, there's going to be some circulation there. So whether or not those storms fire up to getting winds at 40 miles per hour, probably not, but that's something that the Hurricane Center might start looking at as we head into the middle part of next week. So there you see the rain along that frontal system, weak areas of low pressure moving along that, but none of the models really deepen anything there. It's just kind of a wind shift line with that front. And there you see a small little circulation center, almost like an extra tropical storm system moving north of Bermuda. And that would probably be Sunday into Monday's time frame. And then backing out, you can start to see all those clouds there over the far eastern Atlantic. And we'll see if by the first week of August, or like August 6th, 7th, going into the second week of August, if we can get any type of vigor developing there in the eastern tropics. Tropical waves will start to set up in this corridor of the Atlantic, but what we've seen, strong winds whipping off of Venezuela and Colombia, moving off towards the northeast. That's obliterated any of these waves. In addition to that, we've had a very strong Saharan air layer, which has just kind of withered away the tropical moisture which is needed in those waves to form additional storms. As we head into August, the SAL layer starts to erode, and that's the reason why it doesn't take a meteorologist to say, oh, there's always a 20% chance at least of development in that area, which is climatologically favored. So that zone is where we'll be watching for some development as we head into August. But right now, nothing is even breathing a sigh of any type of development there. No signs of development. Odds of waves getting up to around 2 feet on our beaches, pretty low here through the weekend. So that means rip current threats will be minimal, if anything. And then as we head into next week, you see how the waves build to around 4 feet offshore. So that is part of due to that groundswell that I'm forecasting for the middle part of next week. So the rain chances will increase this weekend. So gear up for a heavier rain activity here. And we are going to be looking at some greener pastures, hopefully, after this drought has kind of sapped our yards of all their moisture. So we're going to take a little bit of a break and then talk about a Crew 11 mission SpaceX launch coming up here. And we're less than a little bit more than an hour away for that. So stay tuned. We'll see. All right, well, we're back. We're talking about the SpaceX Dragon Crew mission. 4 astronauts sitting in their seats, steering up and ready to blast off. How amazing. Talk about an incredible job. So there's 4 males, 1 female astronaut. You can see them getting ready. They're about an hour and a half from going to the space station. So they will be up there. Talk about the most snazzy outfits. You know, NASA did a good job, but SpaceX took it up a notch with those outfits there. So they are going to be decked out, ready to blast off from Kennedy Space Center, and they're going to provide some supplies and new experiments there for the space station, and it's always exciting to see these rocket launches, and the weather looks pretty good for this. I do expect no weather delays, and right now in Jacksonville, if you go out in about, let's see what the countdown is here, we are looking at T-minus 126, so about an hour and 26 minutes from now, you could probably see it from Jacksonville if you go outside, especially along the beaches where we've got a little bit of a better vantage point. But should be pretty cool to see that. The rockets are the astronauts are clearly pensive, waiting for all that they have practiced to lead up to this event. And I just imagine what an incredibly jolting ride this will be. And yeah, what happens when you do have an itch on your forehead? You just got to bear it and just kind of hit your helmet? Like, I don't know. Maybe one of these days they'll stop by the station and let us know how they itch their head. I would love to know. So I am itching to get out of here, and we are going to take a break until this time tomorrow. So it's a very long break, but we hope to see you same time, same place. Weather Authority Weekday, the best source for weather on the web.
See why every day more people are choosing News 4 Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.